Welcome to the Explainer. If you're gearing up to conquer the Cisco AI Technical Practitioner exam, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we're taking the official exam blueprint and tearing it down piece by piece. We're not just looking at a list of topics, right? We're going to visually deconstruct this thing so you know exactly where to spend your study time. It's all about turning a massive syllabus into a highly tactical, focused game plan. Let's get right into it. So we are cracking open the official document today, the Cisco AI Technical Practitioner V1.0 certification, specifically exam code AITECH 810-110. This right here is the absolute source of truth from Cisco. Every single concept, every percentage we're going to talk about today comes directly from this blueprint. No fluff, just the exact requirements you need to nail down to earn that certification. Now, the number 60. Why does this matter so much? Because you have exactly 60 minutes to complete this exam. Just think about that for a second. 60 minutes to prove your absolute mastery across 6 totally different domains of artificial intelligence. When the clock is ticking that fast, you just can't rely on guesswork. You need to walk into that testing center knowing exactly how the exam is weighted and where the really tricky questions are hiding. To do that, we need to change how we look at the exam. Instead of staring at a daunting list of 6 domains, let's group them into 3 strategic weight classes. Take a look at that massive 60% chunk. We're calling these the heavyweights. That's generative AI, development, and agentic AI. Then you've got the guardrails at 30%, covering prompting and security. And finally, the foundation at 10%, which is all about data. Visualizing the blueprint like this instantly tells you where the bulk of your points actually live. So here's our tactical triage strategy for today's breakdown. First, the heavyweights, those 20% domains. Second, the guardrails, which are prompting and security. Third, data research and analysis. And finally, your strategic study roadmap. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the heavyweights, those 20% domains. The crucial starting point here is Domain 1.0 Generative AI Models. This is a full 20% of your exam. And listen, it is not enough to just know what an LLM is. You need to actually differentiate between major families, like large language models versus diffusion models. You need to understand how to manage context windows and token limits, and know how to select the right models from AI hubs for specific use cases, like reasoning or multimodality. Now, a highly testable area straight from Domain 1.2 is the trade-off between cloud-hosted and locally hosted models. When you're studying, don't just memorize the definitions. You need to be able to evaluate these 2 options across 4 critical dimensions: cost, latency, privacy, and scalability. You should absolutely expect scenario-based questions where you have to recommend one hosting option over the other based on these exact constraints. A perfect example of the technical depth they're looking for is RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, from Domain 1.5. The blueprint explicitly requires you to understand the role of embeddings and vector databases within this architecture. This is basically how we ground AI models in actual, factual enterprise data to stop them from hallucinating or making things up. So make sure you can explain exactly how a vector database fits into that whole pipeline. Moving on to our next heavyweight, Domain 5.0, Development and Workflow Automation. For this one, the exam expects you to describe AI's role across all 5 phases of the software development lifecycle. We're talking from requirements gathering and rapid prototyping, all the way through implementation, testing, and deployment. It's really about viewing AI as a holistic development partner. Digging a little deeper into Domain 5, you've really got to understand the mechanics of workflow automation. You need to know how AI capabilities are used for rapid prototyping and debugging. But here is a super critical nuance you cannot miss. The syllabus specifically links token usage to prototyping cost, latency, and output quality. You have to understand that pushing more tokens doesn't just make the system smarter, it directly impacts your budget and your system's overall speed. All right, now we hit our final 20% heavyweight, Domain 6.0, Agentic AI. The very first objective here, Domain 6.1, asks you to clearly differentiate agentic AI from generative AI use cases. While Gen AI might draft a brilliant email or write a piece of code, agentic AI is a whole different beast. It's about systems that can autonomously plan, use tools, and execute multi-step workflows to achieve a specific goal. You've got to be able to tell these use cases apart on test day. To really master agentic AI, there are 3 main pillars you need to focus on. First up, agent design principles and orchestration. Basically, how do multiple agents work together? Second, and this is incredibly important for enterprise deployments, are human-in-the-loop or HITL strategies. Cisco wants to make sure you can build autonomous systems that still know when to pause and ask a human for permission. And finally, you need to understand data transformation and mapping within these AI agents, which builds directly into one of the most specific requirements on the blueprint, Domain 6.3. You are explicitly required to describe Model Context Protocol, or MCP, framework primitives. Now, this isn't just general knowledge. This is a highly specific framework concept functioning right within the context of agentic design. Literally, do not walk into the exam without knowing what MCP is and exactly how its primitives operate. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, Guardrails, Prompting, and Security. These next two domains make up nearly a third of your exam. And honestly, it makes total sense because Cisco places a massive, unwavering emphasis on responsible, secure, and ethical network deployments. That philosophy completely carries over to their AI certification. You aren't just being tested on how to make AI work, you're being tested on how to make it work securely, ethically, and privately inside a corporate environment. Let's take a look at Domain 2.0, Prompt Engineering. It's worth 15%, and it is not just about typing a clever question into a chat box. You need to understand structured principles like roles, instructions, and constraints. You've got to be able to explain different techniques, think iterative, chained, and few-shot prompting, and know exactly how those structures adapt whether you're generating text, images, or audio. And crucially, you absolutely must be able to describe different types of prompt injection attacks. Which leads us perfectly into Domain 3.0, Ethics and Security. Here, the focus is squarely on responsible AI principles, like fairness and bias mitigation. You need to know the right approaches for protecting corporate data privacy and really understand AI governance, policy, and compliance. Also, notice a crucial crossover concept here, defensive prompting against hallucinations. This shows exactly how prompting and security overlap. You have to know how to construct prompts that actively mitigate AI-generated errors. All right, on to Section 3, Data Research and Analysis. Domain 4.0 is Data Foundation. While it's a smaller piece of the pie at just 10%, it is entirely foundational. The blueprint wants you to explain AI's role in exploratory data analysis, or EDA. You need to be able to describe automated data preparation tasks, like quality checks, formatting, and cleaning. And, tying right back into our security theme, you must be able to explain the controls required to prevent data exposure during AI-assisted analysis. Finally, Section 4, your Strategic Study Roadmap. We've unpacked the blueprint, so here is your ultimate study tactic. 60% of your effort, your time, and your practice labs should be dedicated to mastering those core technology heavyweights, generative models, development workflows, and agentic AI. The remaining 40% of your time, spend that solidifying your supporting skills and guardrails, prompting, security, and data preparation. Seriously, let these percentages dictate your study schedule. Don't spend half your time reading about data cleaning when it's only 10% of the exam. Focus your energy where the points are. Which brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with today. You're preparing for an intense 60-minute exam. The clock is ticking. Based on the tactical triage we've just gone through, you now know exactly what Cisco values most in an AI technical practitioner. So, how are you going to allocate your first 60 minutes of study time today? Are you going to dive straight into Model Context Protocol? Or maybe practice some few-shot prompting techniques? The blueprint is crystal clear. Now the strategy is yours to execute. Happy studying!